Hello and welcome back to our podcast, everyone. I have to say we're so thankful that you chose to tune in again to our podcast.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much, everyone. And shall we also say hello and welcome to any new listeners, maybe?
Of course. Hello to all of you, old and new. We're really happy you're here.
Yes, we are. And maybe we should give a quick reminder as well that this is quite a new podcast and that it actually has a bit of a background story because, I don't know, maybe it might be helpful or maybe even meaningful to know that our idea was to make it a bit like a book in a way. You can start from the first episode and then listen as it is a story unfolding chapter by chapter. Especially tune in and listen to the intro and the first couple of episodes, because then, Nina, you tell your story that I feel like we refer to about losing your husband. Yeah, just in case someone has joined us midway.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. But I guess most of our listeners have probably figured that out by now, or maybe they've been with us from the start, hopefully. Either way, we are really glad you're here. So it's a bit of a special episode today because when we record this, you are actually home and you came home quite spontaneously too. So we're sitting here together again in the same room, which doesn't happen very often.
Yes, this wasn't exactly planned. I booked the flight a few days ago when we got the news that our grandmother, who is turning 92 soon, had been admitted to the hospital with pneumonia and COVID. And that's not a good combination, especially when you're older. So yeah, I am here.
Yeah, and that's good that you're here because this was really sudden. So about 2 weeks ago now, the hospital called all her children, our mom and her siblings, and told them to come because things weren't looking good. So when you heard, you basically jumped on a plane a few days later so you could be with our mom and her and with us, of course. Even though typical timing, I was away myself at the time.
Yes, isn't that just how life works? Things always seem to happen when someone's away, when it's not a good time, and that's just how it is sometimes. But I just really wanted to be home, close to her. She means so much to all of us, and luckily she's doing much better now. She hasn't been discharged from the hospital yet, but she's doing much better and is waiting for a short-term stay in a nursing home to recover. And that's a big relief.
It really is. And I must say it was so good to get back home again for me also, so that I can go and see her too. She is honestly the strongest, most social 90-something we know, right? She's always up to date on everything, local news, politics, what's happening in the world even. She's more active socially than I am. I'm a few decades younger, so she's a special one for sure.
That's so true. She's out at dinners, parties, gatherings, and events more often than either of us. And when she isn't out, she's always on the phone with someone or busy cooking or cleaning. She actually cleans her floor every single night before she goes to bed.
Yeah. And we both talk to her on the phone almost every week. Either she calls us or we call her. She's even on Snapchat and Instagram. Plus she FaceTimes. I mean, sometimes all we see is her forehead or the table. But honestly, I think it's amazing. She's been such a steady presence in our whole lives, really. So she and our grandfather has always been there for us.
Yeah, we spent so much time at their place growing up. Either we were there or they came to see us. And it's always been that kind of closeness with them. They were our special grandparents, I think I can say.
Yeah, we are truly blessed in that way for sure. So today we wanted to start by sharing a bit about that, about family care and what it really means when someone who's been there for your whole life suddenly gets frail. Because, if life has treated you well, you kind of start to believe it'll just stay that way forever, don't you? I mean, I've changed a bit over the years regarding this way of thinking, but still, in general, I think that's how we humans tend to think.
Exactly. We're so good at taking things for granted, especially if we've been protected from big, dramatic life changes for a while. But when something like this happens, it shakes you a little. It makes you stop and realize how fragile things actually are and how deeply those everyday connections matter.
Yeah. And how important it is to keep the people you love close to your heart, really close, and to never assume that tomorrow will look exactly like today.
Right. Because life changes, people get older, and everything can shift so quickly. And maybe that's exactly why we need to slow down sometimes, just to notice and to appreciate the ones who've quietly been there all along.
Yes, and I've noticed, now that we are in our 40s, things are starting to change. For many of my friends, it's becoming really clear. Their parents are getting older, their kids are growing up and becoming more independent, and suddenly the focus kind of shifts. The generation above us starts needing more care, more attention. It's like this natural cycle turning, in a way.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, me and my friends, actually, because it's so much happening with my friends and their parents and stuff too. And then we just realized that it is our age.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't think about those things until you're there. And yeah, age, that's probably where we are in our life now. But honestly, how lucky have we been? We've been blessed with quite young parents, still so vital and active. It is actually grandma now who needs our care and attention. She's the one at that stage. Our parents are still living their lives separately, I must add. But they are both very healthy and strong still. Just look at our mom. She's just had her second knee surgery, and she's already going for walks. She's out and about, and she's traveled a lot. She's always doing projects, painting or climbing her ladder.
Yeah.
And they're in their 70s and still so full of energy, luckily.
Yeah, they really are. And that is actually such a gift because it gives us time also in a way, time to appreciate them while they're still healthy and independent. And it allows our mom and us the time and the energy now to care for our grandma in a meaningful way too. And, it also reminds me how precious it's been to have grandparents in our life for so long. Even now when we're in our 40s, that's something not everyone gets to experience.
That's so true. We've had such stability around us, having grandparents and even great grandparents for so much of our lives. It shaped us in so many ways. It's something to be deeply grateful for.
Yeah, it is. And maybe that's part of why we wanted to talk about this today, to reflect a bit on family, gratitude, and the way time changes our roles, because it really does sneak up on you. One day you're the child being cared for, and before you know it, you're the one making sure everyone else is okay.
Exactly. It's part of life's rhythm. Bittersweet, but beautiful at the same time.
And that's where we'll start today with our grandma and what she taught us about strength, love, and also the gift of time. It's moments like this that really reminds us how precious time is. We're so lucky to still have her, our grandma, and honestly to have grown up with grandparents and even great-grandparents, as you said, around us. That can be rare these days, I feel like.
It really is, or can be. Sometimes I forget how special that is to have had all of them as parts of our lives for so long. They've always been there in the background, steady and reliable.
And I think that's what makes it so emotional now, seeing her a bit frail all of a sudden, knowing time keeps moving, whether we're ready or not, despite the fact that she's going on 92.
Yeah, 92. That is something.
Mm-hmm.
But it hits differently when someone who's been your anchor starts needing others to hold them. I mean, she has been so independent and strong always, despite the age. And I guess that's what brought all these feelings to the surface for me this week.
Yeah, you've been away for so long, so I can imagine it brought back a lot for you.
It really did. I really had to come back home. Being so far away from all of you, it's something I gotten used to. But when something like this happens, when someone you love gets sick, the distance suddenly feels huge because you really just want to be there. It's like the miles between here and there kind of doubles overnight in a way.
I guess all those emotions come flooding back to you when something like this happened. I mean, from when both Grandpa was sick and passed away around Christmas 2017, and then my husband 3 years later, and also your husband's grandma and all that. Those were such incredibly hard times for you being away, wanting to be there but not being able to. So I can only imagine.
Yeah, that was very hard. And, those moments never completely leave you. They kind of stay somewhere in the back of your mind. And then when something like this happens, it stirs it all up again. And I think that's exactly why I didn't even hesitate this time. When I heard that she was sick in the hospital, I just knew I couldn't risk not being there again. So I booked a ticket right away. My husband said, go, I'll take the kids. No planning, no second thoughts. I just knew that I needed to be close to her and to all of you.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's like once you've lived through that kind of distance, that feeling of not being there when something really matters, it changes you. It kind of rewires how you react when life suddenly throws something big your way again.
Exactly. It's almost like your body remembers that feeling before your mind even catches up, if I can say that.
Yeah, I guess in a way it's also that urgency you get to just show up when it matters, even if it's scary or exhausting. You just want to be there. I think that's completely natural, and I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you live far away, there's always that quiet worry, this invisible little weight you carry. You don't think about it every day, of course, but it's always there. And when something happens, it just hits all at once.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially those living abroad or just far from family. I mean, you built your life somewhere else, you get used to a different rhythm, but your heart still has those roots kind of back home in one way or another, I guess. It's no wonder many people never really leave their hometowns like me.
Yeah.
Or if they do, so many end up moving back eventually also. There's just something about belonging, I think. That pull never really goes away.
Yeah, that's so true. I think it's the most natural thing in the world, wanting to stay close to where your story began. And me and my husband actually did talk about this the other day as well, because we are from different places. So where is our joint home? If I can say joint home, we don't have a city we both want to move back to in our future, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
But that's just how it is. When you live far away, you kind of build a new life. I mean, you do, but your heart never really moves in a way. I mean, home for me is always Norway with my family and friends. I think that never changes. And when something happens back home, something big and emotional, those roots really pull at you. It can be both beautiful and painful at the same time. Beautiful because it's love, and of course, painful for the exact same reason. And I must say being home now just feels different. It brings up so many emotions, so many memories. I don't know. It's just different. Like you said, when your husband passed away and when our grandfather died, I couldn't come home, and that was really hard. And I think that's why I didn't even hesitate this time. The second I heard that she was sick in the hospital, I just knew I had to come home because I want to spend time with her when she's here.
Of course. And it's such a strange mix, isn't it? I mean, grief and distance all tangled up, and all the emotions and memories, they come back to you for sure.
Yeah, they do. You know, when you live far away, there's always this, like I said, background worry, right? You kind of carry this invisible bag of what ifs. What if someone gets sick? What if something happens and I can't get home in time? And most of the time, you just push it to the back of your mind because you can't think about those things all the time. And that's how you cope. And of course, most days and months are fine. Things are normal and all that. But when it suddenly becomes real, when things do happen, all that distance feels so heavy.
And as I said, I think a lot of people who live far away will recognize that. Is that helplessness that comes with not being able to just show up. And for us, I mean, family has always been a big part of who we are in a way. So then I think the distance hits even harder.
It does. Even though I was home this summer and we had such a nice time with her, our grandmother, sitting out on her balcony, having coffee, laughing, and her telling her stories about growing up. It doesn't matter how recent that was, because when someone you love suddenly gets sick, it's like time collapses in a way. You just feel this urge to be there right now, to hold their hand and to make sure that they know that they're not alone and that I'm there when it matters.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it's strange how moments like this bring everything back, isn't it? I mean, old memories, reflections, all of it. And it also made me think back to the time when my husband was ill. I mean, regarding distance and all that. You couldn't be here then. But I just want to say you were there with me anyways in so many ways. We really learned back then how deep connections can run even across continents. It's not the same as being there physically, of course, but it still means everything. And
yeah, that time changed how I think about being there for people, because sometimes being there doesn't look like what we wanted it to, especially when you live far away. I mean, sometimes it's calls, messages, sending love in the middle of the night across time zones, and that of course helps. But when you can be physically present, it feels like a kind of relief. It just feels better.
yeah, and I get that. I can imagine it's almost like the body gets to catch up with the heart in a way. I mean, you've been there emotionally all along, but now you finally get to be there. I felt that too when I got the call. I was away too, as I said. And honestly, you really just want to pack up and go straight back home. And it was so good when I got home and I could go see her. And you.
Yes, that was nice. Because when you are gone, it's just consumes your entire day anyways. Because then you think about what's happening now, what are they doing, how is it going? And when you're there, at least you're there. So you are there through it all and for everyone and for yourself too. And I think that's something that many people don't talk enough about. The emotional toll of being far away from home. I mean, we talked about it here before, because if you choose to build a life somewhere else, far away from your family, you chose that and you enjoy it. Of course you do. But there is always this string connecting you back, always. That's kind of the downside to it all. And moments like this pull on it really hard, I think I can say.
And maybe that's what reminds us of how important these connections really are. And also what truly matters at the end of the day. Because it's not the everyday rush, not the big plans, but being there for the people you love one way or another when it counts.
Yeah, that's really what this week has reminded me of, how precious those connections are.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about my reactions these days, and you and me also talked about this, my so-called trauma brain. I become very aware of it when unpredictable, sudden things happen like this. So when my mom called and said grandma was sick, I, of course, froze for a second and felt that wave of panic. But almost instantly, my brain switched into this mode that it tends to do. I didn't fall apart or panic the way I might have done before. And of course, I must say our mom reassured me right away, said things were stable and that she would keep me updated and all of that. She knows me better than most people, so she probably sensed that little spiral starting in my head also. But it made me wonder and reflect, because sometimes I catch myself thinking, have I become a bit distant? Maybe even a little hard, a little too hard after everything. You know, the losses, the illness, the constant uncertainty. It's like my mind automatically says, okay, stay calm, don't feel too much, be prepared. That's my coping mechanism now, I think. And honestly, it's kind of exhausting and also a bit, I don't know if this is the right word, but fascinating how we tend to function to survive, you know?
That makes so much sense, I think, though. You've been through so much. It's almost like your body and mind have learned they need to protect you, even when you don't want them to. I think that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. And I know we talked about this before, and I guess it's logical and all that, but it's still, I don't know, a weird feeling when it happens because, of course, it's not that I don't care. I care deeply. But there's this layer, you know, like a shield in a way when things like this happen. I catch myself thinking, don't get too close emotionally, or because what if something happens again? And I'm saying this just because I know that it cannot be just me in the world feeling this, you know.
Totally not. But I also must say, when you came to the hospital, you have this like calm presence that maybe the others or we don't have. You know, you're automatically talking to her in a very calm way and brushing her hair. And so I feel like you're just turned into this person that helps everyone, makes everyone feel better when things like this happen. Sadly, you become our professional in grief.
Yeah.
That is very sad, but
I must take that as a compliment, of
yes,
course.
it is
Yeah.
definitely a compliment. And I think the feeling of you feeling cold, that is not the case, like I said. And I do think that is actually very common. And I know we talked about this before, and you have told me, and I've also read about that, how people who've experienced big losses or trauma often build what psychologists call anticipatory coping mechanism. It's the brain's way of trying to keep us safe. You kind of start bracing for impact before anything even happens. And when you know this, it makes total sense.
Yeah, that sounds familiar because it's like constantly living half prepared in a way for the next loss. And now, you know, living with illness and uncertainty again, that part of me gets triggered very easily. And it's exhausting sometimes. You want to live fully, you try, and you do in a way also. There's always that quiet fear in the background.
It's a tough balance, isn't it? Between staying open and protecting yourself. because you know what it costs when something happens, the emotional pain, the grief, and no one wants to go through that again. It's like I said, very understandable when you think about it.
Yeah, that's true. And it really is, but it's still a struggle, I have to say.
I get that. And you know, I think it's kind of the same for me, just in a different form. That need to act right away. Just book a flight the second something happens. It's like my own version of coping. I wait to make sure I don't end up in that same powerless place again that I don't want to be.
Right. Now, when you say it like that, it's like two sides of the same thing, isn't it? You react by doing, I react by containing in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us trying to keep some kind of control when life suddenly feels shaky again.
That's it. It's that urge to protect yourself or the people you love before things spin out of control. And I think that comes from our prior experiences. When you've been through something really painful, you just don't ever want to feel that kind of helplessness again.
So true. But I think it's interesting, though, how the same emotion, fear, or maybe I think I will use the word love, can show up in such different ways. I mean, you spring into action while I kind of freeze and go quiet, prepare, you know?
Yeah, but underneath, it's really the same thing. That deep need to feel safe and to know that everyone we love is okay. It's just our brains trying to protect us, even if it doesn't always seem logical from the outside. And that's why being open about it helps so much. It takes away the shame and makes it easier to understand what actually is going on.
That's so true. And maybe that's also something a lot of people can relate to, especially if they've experienced sudden losses or big life changes. It's that instinctive, I have to do something, or I can't let myself feel too much. Just two different ways of coping with uncertainty.
And I think understanding that, recognizing that both reactions come from love and fear, makes it easier to be a little gentler with ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. More gentle with ourselves. That's always a good thing. And that's something I'm still learning, to be honest. You know, when I look at our grandma, I mean, she had her share of losses too. It all comes up now, you know, when she is sick and all.
Yeah, so true. We talked a lot about that this week.
I mean, she lost her youngest son, her husband, her siblings, and also many of her friends. And I mean, that's kind of a thing also when you reach a high age.
Mm-hmm.
But yet she's still so full of gratitude. She keeps saying things like, I've had such a good life. And she always tells stories about back in the days and all the things they did together with all their friends and also what we did together.
Mm-hmm.
And she also said that I'd swap any day if I could with those young boys. And then she's meaning both my husband and now also my boyfriend, both of them gone sick too soon, you know?
Yeah, she says that all the time. That is so her. And I know that she actually would do that too, that she means it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that gratitude is what keeps her going, you know? It's such a strong mindset.
It really is. She doesn't deny the hard things, but she doesn't live inside them either. She just appreciates what she's had, what she still has. And maybe that's something we all learned from her, to stay open even if it hurts sometimes.
Yeah, I think we all have learned from her because she is really a resilient and strong one. And we've also learned that protecting yourself from the pain you experience might feel safe in the moment, but over time it could also numb you a bit. The same wall that keeps out pain also keeps out some of the joy in a way.
That is so true and very important to acknowledge also.
And it's interesting how these experiences make us think about others too. All the people who live far away from their parents or grandparents. It's not just the emotional distance, it's the practical side of it too. It could be.
Yeah, it really can be. And I've even heard of people who actually move their elderly parents to the place they live instead of putting them in nursing homes back in their hometowns because they want them nearby to be a part of their daily lives again, to take care of them. And I think that's a beautiful thing if that's possible to do.
Yeah, as long as they want that. That is becoming quite common, especially for families spread across countries. I'm not sure if my mama would want to move to the USA, but it is a big decision for sure, because you're talking about uprooting someone from everything familiar, their friends, their routines, their language even, just to be close. I know it's done out of love, but it involves so much.
Yeah, it really does. Of course, if it's a new country or, as you say, a different language and everything. And for those who can't do that, there's maybe the guilt not being able to visit as often as they like, not being there for, doctor's appointments or just those quiet Sunday moments that means the most.
It's a complicated kind of love, I think. The love that spans distance. It's full of good intentions and hard choices. And sometimes, no matter what you choose, it still hurts a little. It's just hard.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's no perfect solution. You just do the best you can and love from where you are. Show up when it matters the most and just hold on to the small ways you can stay connected.
And maybe that's what our grandma has taught us all along. That connection doesn't depend on geography, really. It's built over a lifetime of presence, of laughter, time spent together, of everyday care. That's what lasts.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of what keeps her so strong too. She's always been surrounded by love and she's given so much of it herself. And that kind of balance of receiving and giving, I think it shapes a resilience in you that lasts a lifetime.
Absolutely. And her and our grandfather made some really smart choices early on too. They sold their big house and moved into a smaller apartment. They made life simpler and more manageable for them. It's like they were thinking ahead, quietly preparing for the future without making a big deal out of it.
Yeah, and they traveled so much during those years too, and really made the most of their time together. And they kept their friendships alive, which I think is such a key part of it, having a strong social circle, people you can laugh with, talk to, share everyday moments with, because that is what gives life color, no matter how old you are.
That is very true. It's like preparing for life, not just for old age. Making sure you have routines, a home you can handle, and people around you who lift you up. Those things matter so much, especially when life gets difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And they were intentional about that from very early on, I think. Because, when Grandpa passed away, Grandma already had her own place she could manage and a close group of friends she could lean on. And that made such a difference. She could keep living fully even after losing him. And she told me this. So we actually talked about this. And I know for him also, that made it easier for him because he knew that she could manage on her own.
Yeah. I actually think that he told my mom too, like, you have to take care of her after I'm gone. And he also said, because my parents had, or my mom and our stepdad had a 2-story house, and he said that she has to sleep in the sewing room, which was like a small guest room, because she cannot walk down the stairs.
Yeah.
So he was really protective over her. Just cute.
Cuties.
And it's a beautiful reminder of how small and thoughtful choices made over a lifetime can build real resilience and independence, and how love, friendship, and family are the threads that hold everything together when life shifts.
I think it's an important reminder to all of us, really, to take care of the people we love, but also to kind of prepare for the future in a way that keeps life rich and connected. I mean, we all have responsibility for our own lives in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we wanted to reflect on today, how family, care, and gratitude and the gift of time all weave together in the way we live and the way we grieve also.
And I think of my husband's grandmother too, because she had this big, beautiful 2-bedroom apartment when I moved to Canada. It was really, really nice there. But she actually chose to move to a smaller, really simple place, like a super small, not very nice place, I must say. She had lived there before, but she moved to this super nice apartment. But she wanted to move back, and not because she had to, but because of the people who live there. She was happier there. She could go downstairs, have coffee with her neighbors, chat a little, and just know that she had people her age around her. People meant more to her than a fancy apartment where she was far away from everyone.
That is such a wise choice of her to make, and one that really says something about what really matters the most.
Yeah, and I see the same kind of wisdom, I think we can use that word, in our mom now too, because after our stepfather passed away, she sold her house and she moved into an apartment. And it took her a long time to find that apartment because it was going to be her, home for the rest of her life. So she thought about that too. So an apartment just makes life easier, less garden to take care of, fewer stairs to walk. There's an elevator, and she's within walking distance of our hometown and stores, so she can walk everywhere. It's simpler, and that simplicity feels right for this stage of life, even though, I don't look at her as old, but she's planning for the future. And it's not about giving things up. It's more about making space for what matters.
Yeah, that's really so true. It's like each generation quietly figures out how to make life a little lighter, how to stay connected, and how to live with more ease and intention also.
And maybe that's one of the greatest lessons they leave us, that happiness doesn't come from having more, but from having what fits your life, your heart, and your time. When I think about everything our grandmother has been through, it's honestly incredible that she's still so full of life and humor. She suffered so many losses, more than most people could ever bear.
Yeah. Especially losing her youngest son, our uncle. He was only 23 when he took his own life, and that's probably her deepest wound, and the one she still carries with her every day.
Yeah. I can not imagine how that feels like. And it's a story that has shaped our whole family, really. I know I was super young. I just have like a faded memory of him. We don't want to share too much of that story yet, but we hope that she will allow us to share more from her point of view someday, because it is such an important topic, not just for us, but for understanding how much has changed since then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a different story. Back in the 80s, there was so much stigma and shame around suicide. People didn't talk about it openly. It was almost like the family was expected to just move on and stay quiet. But when we heard the story and knew the truth, she never hid it from us. She's always spoken about him with love and pride. But you can see that it still, to this day, affects her deeply.
Of course, losing a child, your youngest baby, still so hard and wrong. But even though it's her greatest grief, it's also one of the things that shows just how strong she is. She never gave up. She kept living, she kept loving, she kept showing up for everyone around her.
And still at almost 92, she's the toughest woman we know. I mean, she got COVID now. She was admitted to the hospital. And a few days later, she's back chatting with everyone, following the news and asking about the neighbors, worrying about her hair not looking good.
Mm-hmm. You took
Despite
care.
she was really fragile for a moment there.
Yeah, you took care of that, like I said.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's unstoppable. But at the same time, she's also quite ready in a way, I feel like.
Mm.
She talks about it very openly, that she's had a good life, that she's grateful, and that she's not afraid of the next chapter.
Yeah, definitely. And she's also very organized about it. She's
Yeah.
basically planned everything for when she goes. She's marked nearly everything in her apartment, I think, with names, who's getting which painting, photo, or even which book. And she started years ago handing out her things to us.
Yeah.
All the grandkids and her kids. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think her and our grandfather started years and years ago putting names on the back of things. And I saw that when I was there now, little notes on vases and picture frames. This one is for Nina, this one is for Katrine, and, all of us in our family. And it's both funny in one way, but it's also incredibly touching, I think.
it is so her, though. Practical and thoughtful. She doesn't want anyone to have to guess or argue later. She's still taking care of everyone, even in that way.
It's also such a gentle way of showing peace with it all. She's not scared of death, I feel like. She's prepared, and that's something I really admire. She did have a long and good life.
Yeah, me too. I really admire her for that. And she's not bitter or afraid. She's grateful. And she's shown us that you can lose so much, go through unimaginable pain, and still live with dignity, humor, and love.
And honestly, we're so lucky. I mean, how many people in their 40s can say they still have their grandmother and even had their great-grandparents growing up? That is such a gift.
It really is. We got to know them, not just through stories or pictures, but as real people who shaped our lives. Their home was practically our second home there for a while growing up, and that's something we'll always carry with us.
That's something we should never take for granted, to have that kind of continuity, that living connection through generations. It teaches you what family really means.
That's exactly it. Family isn't just about blood, it's about presence and care and showing up. And Grandma has done that her whole life. She's really been the heart of our family, the queen.
She really, really has. And she taught us how important it is to take care of each other, to stay close, to stay grateful and strong, and to keep those family bonds alive, even when life pulls us in different directions.
True. She's the kind of person who reminds you that love doesn't end, just changes form. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. And maybe that's the best lesson we can take with us: to love fully, to stay grateful, and to never stop showing up, even when life hurts.
Yeah, I think she'd like that.
She would.
So today's episode really became a tribute, I feel like, to our sweet grandmother, and also to family and to that quiet strength that carries us through life.
And to everyone listening, if you're far away from someone you love or worrying about an aging parent or grandparent, you are not alone. These feelings are universal, and love somehow always finds its way through distance and time.
Yeah. And we'll keep sharing these reflections, as always, with honesty, a bit of laughter, and a lot of heart.
Thank you for listening, and send a little extra love to your grandparents today if you're lucky to have them still, because they deserve it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Nina had a dream, all black and white. We were talking in English, yeah, that ain't right. Two Norwegian sisters miles apart, but that dream lit a fire, put a mic to the heart. Katrine's in the States, Nina's back home. Two voices, one mission through the microphone. Grief in life, the highs and the lows. We hit record, where the file go? Oh, we fumble, we stumble, but baby we shine. Lost the intro, never mind. Wi-Fi shaky, cables crossed, but our hearts stay strong, no moment lost. From a dream to the mic, now the world can hear. Two sisters telling truths with a laugh and a tear. We live, we learn, we slip, we sigh. Talking love, talking lost, let the echoes fly. Grief walks in, pulls up a chair, says I'll stay a while, yeah, life ain't fair. But we mix it with laughter, a toast in hand, finding light where the dark still stands. Ba-da-da-boo-doo, is this thing on? Mic's on mute, oh well, move along. Ba-ba-dee, ba-ba-da, take two. Oops, too late, let's laugh it through. From a dream to the mic, now the world can hear. Two sisters telling truths with a laugh and a tear. We live, we learn, we sip, we sigh. Talking love, talking lost, let the echoes fly. So plug in, lean in, let's take our time. No script, no filters, just rhythm and rhyme. We're here, we're now, we're in our prime. Two sisters, one dream, on the mic.